Hi, I know what you must be thinking. You must be thinking, how can the ICAI study material be useless? After all, the CA final exams are conducted based on the study material provided by ICAI. Yes, I agree with you 100%. Out of the 8 papers in CA final, the study material is very important for 7 papers, but not for paper 6, the elective paper. So let me state this very clearly. The ICAI study material is pretty useless for the elective paper. And if your examination preparation is based on the ICAI study material, you could end up scoring very low marks, and in the worst case scenario, you may even fail in the examination. You must be thinking, how can someone score low marks in an open book examination? And you must also be wondering, if not the ICAI study material, then what material or notes should we follow? Now before I go ahead and list out the several reasons why the ICAI study material is not helpful for the exams, first let's discuss about the open book exam. Ironically, it is the open book system itself that is creating problems to the students. For example, in the recently announced CA final results of November 2020 examination, the All India first ranker scored on an average 76% in all other 7 papers, but she scored only 68 marks in the elective paper, though the elective paper is an open book exam. Not just the first ranker. The All India second ranker scored on an average of 76% in all the other papers, but scored the least marks, that is 55 marks in the elective paper. Incidentally, both the first ranker and second ranker chose paper 6D, economic laws, as the elective paper. So my point is, if someone scores excellent marks in all the traditional subjects, but scores relatively less in an elective paper which is an open book examination, then there should be something wrong with the material that they refer during the examination. Not just paper 6D economic laws. For example, take paper 6C international taxation. As per the statistics released by ICAI itself, in May 2019, the pass percentage in paper 6C international tax was just 31%. That is, less than 1/3 of the students who appeared for international taxation passed the paper, even though it is an open book examination. So, the important question that we all should ask is, what is the root cause of this problem? To illustrate the problem, I shall take the example of the study material provided by ICAI for the elective paper 6B FSCM, that is, Financial Services and Capital Market. But please understand one thing, not only the FSCM study material, the study material provided by ICAI for other electives also have similar problems. But due to time limitation and to make this video concise, I shall focus only on the FSCM study material. Before we discuss each and every problem with the study material in detail, first let's have a look at the list of the problems. Problem number 1. Errors and mistakes. Problem number 2. Inadequate or incomplete explanation of the concepts. Problem number 3. No proper updations. Problem number 4. No interconnections or interlinkages between the concepts. Problem number 5. Contradictory information. Problem number 6. Lack of numericals or illustrations. And problem number 7. The SEBI regulations. Now let's discuss each and every problem in detail. Errors are quite common in the study material, whether it is the elective paper or any other paper. So frankly speaking, we should not worry too much about the errors, but you should be cautious with errors, because sometimes you may not realize that there is an error in the material and you may commit a mistake in the examination. For example, in chapter 8 banking, under the concept of adjusted present value, while calculating the base NPV, in the ICAI material, the residual value has been ignored. And in the examination, if they ask a similar question and if you too ignore the residual value, then your answer will definitely be wrong. So be careful. Now coming to the mistakes. There are many mistakes in the ICAI study material. Actually, I even made a video on it a couple of years ago. After I released the video, ICAI has rectified some of the mistakes and published a revised material. Unfortunately, there are still a few mistakes left in the material. However, from an examination point of view, you don't need to worry about errors or mistakes. But the only problem you'll be facing is your practical knowledge will be limited because of those mistakes. That's it. The ICAI material has been designed in a haphazard, arbitrary manner. Most of the chapters do not contain adequate explanation of the concepts. For example, in the credit derivatives chapter, the features of a CDO or what differentiates a CDO from an asset-backed security, none of these concepts were explored. In the same chapter, the term credit-linked note was mentioned multiple times, but it was not explained at all. Similarly, in the mutual funds chapter, while discussing the concept of an exchange-traded fund, the term authorized participant was mentioned. But who is an authorized participant? What are the functions of an authorized participant? None of these concepts were discussed. For a traditional examination, such inadequate explanation is not a problem at all, because in a traditional examination, they ask straightforward questions. For example, questions such as list out the features of an exchange traded fund or write a short notes on exchange traded fund, etc. Unfortunately, in a case-based open book exam, ICAI cannot and will not ask such straightforward questions. Fortunately, in such open book exam, you don't need to memorize everything. But on the flip side, you can't answer a question unless you fully understand the concept, because most of the questions in an open book exam are application oriented questions. An open book exam does not test your memory. It tests your ability to apply the concepts in a real world simulation. Remember that. Unfortunately, in the ICAI study material, there are many chapters which don't provide adequate explanation of the concepts. In addition to the mutual funds and credit derivatives chapters, there are chapters like investment banking, private equity, risk management, treasury operations, and many others which don't provide a comprehensive explanation of the concepts. Recently, ICAI has revised the study material of all the elective papers. Sadly, there are many concepts which have not been updated in that revised material. From an examination point of view, such updations are not very important, but there are some concepts whose updations you should be aware of. For example, in the money market chapter, it was mentioned that the 91-day T-bill are auctioned through the uniform price auction method. But the fact is, for the past few years, RBI auctions 91-day T-bills either through the uniform price auction method or through the multiple price auction method. So, during the examination, if there is a case study based on a recent T-bill auction, you will definitely be confused, because the study material says one thing while the case study says something else. To avoid such confusion, you should be aware of any recent amendments or changes that are not yet updated in the ICAI study material. Please understand one thing. Each chapter in the FSCM material is authored by a different person and not by the same person. Therefore, when a particular concept is discussed in a particular chapter, and if it has any interconnections or interlinkages to a concept in a different chapter, unfortunately, such interconnections or interdependencies are not discussed at all. In a case-based examination, if you are not aware of such interconnections or interdependencies, you will not be able to answer any application based question. For example, in chapter 3 primary capital market, the concept of a callable bond, that is a bond with a call feature, is discussed. Whereas in chapter 14 risk management, the concept of optionality risk is discussed. So, unless a connection is made between these two concepts, a student will not be able to answer any application based question. For example, questions such as, who faces the optionality risk in case of a callable bond? Is it the bond holder or the bond issuer? Or when is the optionality risk high for a callable bond? When the interest rate increases or when it reduces? Unfortunately, with the way the ICAI study material has been designed, a student will not be able to answer such questions. There are several statements within the ICAI material which contradict with each other. For example, the IPO issue requirements stated in chapter 3 primary capital market are different to those stated in the SEBI ICDR regulations. Frankly speaking, the SEBI ICDR regulations are correct and those conditions stated in chapter 3 primary capital markets are incorrect. So, whenever such contradictory statements are made during the exam, some students will refer to chapter 3 primary capital market and write the answer, while some students refer SEBI ICDR regulations and write the answer. Of course, only one of them is correct. So, such contradictory statements create confusion among students. Similarly, in the mutual funds chapter, in case of an InvIT, that is, an infrastructure investment trust, it was mentioned that the minimum sponsor holding should be 25%. But within the same paragraph, it was also mentioned that the sponsors should collectively hold not less than 15%. So, when a student reads that paragraph, he will be utterly confused because what is the minimum sponsor holding? Is it 15% or is it 25%? The fact is, the minimum sponsor holding is 15% if the sponsor also acts as the manager of the InvIT. Otherwise, the minimum sponsor holding is 25%. This important detail is not mentioned anywhere in the study material. If a student is aware of such details, then well and good. But as such details are not given in the study material, the contradictory statements will only confuse the students. There are very few numericals in the ICAI study material, and for many of the concepts, adequate illustrations are not provided. Unfortunately, in the examination, ICAI has been asking lots of numerical questions. Even in the recent November 2020 examination, many students complained that the question paper is filled up with numerical questions. Initially, when ICAI announced that the SEBI regulations will be part of FSCM syllabus, it included only the summarized version of the regulations. But later, ICAI removed the summarized version of SEBI regulations and included the full text of the regulations. Now please understand one thing. The full text of SEBI regulations is drafted by SEBI and not by ICAI. That's why in the SEBI regulations, you will not find any explanations or discussions or illustrations. The SEBI regulations are very lengthy and the language used is dry. That's why what many students are doing is, they are just reading the regulations at a surface level. That's why whenever a question is asked on SEBI regulations during the examination, many students are unable to score well. Alright, so those are some of the problems associated with the ICAI study material for the elective paper. But it doesn't mean that the study material is completely useless. But if you want to score well in the elective paper, you can't rely only on the ICAI study material. You need something better than that. So my suggestion to you is to follow a study material which is comprehensive and which discusses each and every concept in detail. The study material that you follow should contain adequate illustrations and numericals. The material should also provide clarifications regarding any mistakes or contradictions in the ICAI study material. Please remember, whatever points I have raised are applicable not only to FSCM material but to the material of other elective papers as well. So, if you are preparing for the elective paper through self-study, then you should put extra efforts and maintain your own notes to ensure success in the examination. Now, for those who are interested in our FSCM classes, please visit our website catalystforca.com. For the FSCM classes, we are offering an exemption guaranteed plan. As per this plan, we guarantee that you will score 60 marks or more in FSCM. And if you don't score 60 marks or more, we will refund the entire fee that you paid to us. Yes, 100% fee refund. You can also watch our demo classes on our YouTube channel Catalyst for CA.